speaking of all my mutants over here, we now have episode 3.
Fire Made Flesh.
Fire Made Flesh, which by the time you're watching and seeing this, y'all been able to see it too. We got to see it a little early, so we've been sitting on this one for a couple weeks or whatever. But, now we're here to talk about episode 3. Fire Made Flesh.
So
once again, the dynamic opening credits, because this one had me I fell out of my seat. I mean, Magneto showing up as a zaddy was hilarious enough that in episode 2, but the fact that they excised Storm's heroic moment and name title from the opening credits because she's no longer part of the team. Yo, dog, I cried. Cried. I was like, yo, they took her out of the opening. Because she's still in the shot with the Blackbird. They can't, magically remove her from that one.
But her whole title situation. Her hero shot is gone.
Zoop, we out of here. You ain't part of the team, Nobo. Fuck out of here. Cold-blooded, nigga. I mean, cold-blooded. Like, Jesus. I love this show.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, so, as you said, like, the last episode, it ends with the clone, or who we think is a clone, walking in. And, collapsing in Morph's arm. Yep. So I almost call him Morpheus, but Morph's arms. And so this is the continuation thereof. And that, I call it, the problem with white women too, because now you gotta, the other, last episode was Problem with White Women Volume 1. This is Volume 2. Now you have bitch ass Scott Summers.
Wow.
Who's made a terrible mistake.
Goddamn. Disrespect.
And that's not his fault. Everyone was deceived, right? Apparently,
I was deceived and confused. Honestly, I had to watch this episode
but I was
twice.
Like, wait, what? And then Beast. Oh, that's another thing. Shout out to Beast. Long live Beast forever. And again, talk about voice. That fucking voice actor. Okay. The way Beast was fucking trying to explain it to them, like even when Rogue was like, "Could you say that in English?" I even said that. Like, wait a minute, what are you talking about, sir? The Jean that came into the dough is the real Jean Grey.
Yes.
She had been kidnapped by Mr. Sinister, whomever, and cloned at some point, and we don't know when, right?
And by the end of the episode, no one knows.
That person that we've been watching in episodes 1 and 2 of X-Men 97, and potentially in the original, they could have been retconning. Who fucking knows at this point?
Yeah. No, they said that. They don't, because the Phoenix stuff happened in the original. Yeah.
Since before times, okay? From the original shit. Apparently that was a clone.
But the switch...
I don't know if that's a retcon, Ben, or if that's true.
It's...
When I say true, you understand. When I'm like, what was originally written versus what they saying now?
All right, now this is my question, right? Because it seemed to be that by the end of the episode, the Jean that we know and love is the one that had the child. But that's not true, right?
That's not. No. The Jean that we realized was a clone is the one that had the baby.
Madelyne had the child.
Madelyne, as by the end of the episode, yes, she written. Let's say that.
Yeah.
She renames herself Madelyne Pryor.
Yep.
Madelyne Pryor is the one that had the baby.
But Jean remembers it.
Jean Grey has been in the fucking Phantom Zone.
But Jean remembers it. That was the thing, because Jean's like, how could I ever forget this?
Jean don't remember giving birth. Jean was in her mind. What do you mean?
Jean said, okay, because the astral projection of Jean in the third episode says, how could I ever forget this? This is the moment of our happiness. This is what
she said, our happiness?
Yes, she was talking about
that
Scott
was Madelyne talking.
No, that was the astral projection of Jean talking at that point.
Nah, bro.
I watched it twice to make sure it is.
Listen, Madelyne Pryor is the one that gave birth. Regardless of what they said in the astral projection, Madelyne is the one. And you know how I also remember Madelyne's the one? Because, and I knew something was off when she got real, when they said, hey, nigga, they try to insinuate you might be the clone Madelyne. Madelyne picked up something and she threw it. And I said, whoa.
No, that's Jean. See,
that's not Jean. That's not Jean.
Oh, no, you're right. That is Madelyne. You're right. That is Madelyne who got all mad and threw it. Yeah, you're right. Because that was Madelyne.
My point of bringing that up is because that's not like Jean to be fucking throwing shit and having even a mini tantrum like that unless there's something wrong. Yeah. So when she did that, I said, wait a minute. Maybe that isn't the real one. It's Madelyne fucking Pryor.
But, okay, to make matters more confusing, like you said, at the end of the episode, Jean and Madelyne have this discussion, and they say, we don't know who was the Phoenix. We don't know who did this. We don't know who did that. we don't know exactly when Mr. Sinister switched us.
Yes, and that's because they have the same memories. Remember, this is on a cellular level. They're going to have the same memories up until a certain point, no matter what. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like the Mauler twins, because like, you know how they remember everything off of because he implants the memories.
It's kind of the same way, because they're confused on who's the clone.
They're like, I'm the original. No, you know, they have that whole thing about who's the original. And I'm just saying, from the logic that they gave, because Madelyne had the baby.
Because it's wildly confusing.
Jean was not physically there. She was up in fucking Transylvania with fucking Senator Castle.
Because when Jean, when Madelyne shows up at the door,
when Jean shows up,
shows at the door, that Jean gets her mind stand by Madelyne, and Madelyne says, "This woman has no memories. I've got all the memories."
And it's not quite true. Her memories was just fragmented.
Yeah, they were just fragmented.
They started coming in after that.
So that's why it's ultra confusing, especially for them and for the audience, who actually, I mean, I guess we're going that Madelyne has the kid.
Put her hair up in a ponytail, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I know. Once they did that, yeah. But Madelyne, I guess, has the kid.
Madelyne had the kid. That's the nigga that bitch ass Summers impregnated.
Right. Now, okay, here's another. We're going back to, once again, here's I don't know what we'll call the segment, but the original intentions for characters is a little different than how they turned out. All right. Whew. All right, this is a little bit more long-winded, right? Originally, there's a character, Jean Grey. Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix, becomes the Dark Phoenix, blows up a whole planet full of aliens. This happens. Lover. One of my favorite moments. I love Dark Phoenix. Oh my God. That was like, I had a big crush on Dark Phoenix. Like, oh, you can torture me, baby. So, anyway, the editor at the time is like, yo, y'all just had her blow up a whole planet full of people. She can't get off with this, fam. Because
she can't get away with this.
Because the original intention for Chris Claremont was he was trying to take the character, she would be depowered, and her and Scott would leave the X-Men and go live happily ever after. The editor's like, nigga, please.
How dare you?
A planet full of people.
That's on some Scarlet Witch shit. Like, how you get away with that shit?
Yeah, she gotta die. So Chris and them were mad about this, but they changed their story, and Jean Grey dies and sacrifices herself at the end of the story. Scott's hurt. He leaves the X-Men, goes back to Alaska where he's from, and while working at his parents' airline in Alaska, meets this woman, Madelyne Pryor, who strongly resembles Jean, and at the same time survived a plane crash on the same day that Jean became the Phoenix in the first place. So there's all these weird things.
Suspicious.
It's super suspicious. But what Chris Claremont, the creator of Madelyne Pryor's original intention for the character, was he had all this build up, where people think she's Jean reborn up until I think it's X-Men 175 is the big anniversary issue. When all this comes to find out that it was one of the X-Men's old foes, Mastermind, who's an illusionist, kind of manipulating the situation to make it seem like that. But she was really just a normal woman. Her and Scott got married. They moved back to Alaska and lived happily ever after. And that was Chris Claremont's original intention, because he wanted the X-Men to grow and change, and for Scott to have his happy ending, since it got taken away from him when they made him kill Jean. Right? So he wanted them to be gone from the X-Men, happily ever after. Occasionally Scott would show up, do some special missions. But for the most part, boom, they're off the table. Maybe a year or so later, someone gets a bright idea to bring Jean Grey back and bring the original 5 X-Men, Cyclops, Beast, Angel, and Jean back together. And at first the idea was they were going to do the original 4 with Dazzler, this other character. But then they were like, that'd be corny. Well, let's just bring Jean back to life, right? But it hadn't been done at this point. Remember, at this point, Jean had been dead for like 10 years in comics, and real time. And it wasn't like now where people just come back to life, especially a character like Jean Grey. That was just something that people thought she was dead forever. Scott's married to Madelyne. Chris Claremont's pissed about this. He doesn't want to write that book, but he eventually does it because he doesn't want somebody else to do it. So he writes this book where Jean Grey comes back to life. It was revealed that the Phoenix had faked her death and put her off in Transylvania, like it happened with this one. And with the Phoenix was like our whole other person. So it wasn't Jean's fault that planet got blown up. Scott finds out Jean's back
absolve
to life.
her of
Absolves
her
her
wrongdoings.
of her wrongdoing, white women shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Scott finds out that Jean is back to life, leaves his wife and baby boy
She's
in.
A bitch ass nigga.
Yeah, I know this was their, like it's funny. This is like the original point when people like it ruined Scott as a character for years. This was his bitch ass moment, and it was so foul that it's like, and a lot of people came in the comments around this time. So Scott was always his bitch nigga because of that. And I can't. It was terrible writing. It was like character assassination. So this nigga leaves Jean, leaves Madelyne, goes with Jean, and this is when shit gets super weird because it's comics. Madelyne eventually makes a deal with some fucking demons, turns into the Goblin Queen, creates this whole situation called Inferno where demons invade New York. At the end of it, gets murdered. Jean absorbs her memories, and it, puts it where Scott can eventually marry Jean, and they can be the couple that we all know and love today. So this episode
very
basically
Scarlet Witchy in the Hex.
Yeah, super. Yeah, with the No More Mutants and all that. Yeah, definitely.
And
super
imaginary children. So.
There you go too. Yeah, definitely. Well, and that's funny because John Byrne wrote that story, or a lot of that. Well, he didn't write the imaginary children shit, but he eventually did a Scarlet Witch. He made Scarlet Witch like Dark Phoenix, which assassinated her character for years. People just love fucking shit up, basically. But long story short, the original plan for Madelyne Pryor was for her to let Scott have a happy ending. And Chris Claremont never got to do that, just like he never got to do his original plans for Gambit and Mr. Sinister, like we talked about before. And so because of that, Madelyne for years, and is still operating in the X-Men to this day, as the Goblin Queen. So that's like become her new character, and that's who she's known as. Shout out to the Goblin Queen, because like just as much a crush I had on Jean Grey when she showed up in that leather as a kid, boy, I was a Madelyne Pryor fan. Mm-hmm. Redheads and black leather look. I'm a simple man.
Once again, funny shit occurs.
Oh,
at the end, towards the end of this episode. So during it,
yeah. Before we get to the end.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
During all this, Goblin Queen and them kidnap Nathan and throw him in the fucking, ooze that they put the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in.
Yep.
And somehow during this process, Sinister is like trying to infuse the boy with like purposefully infusing him like this technovirus because he's trying to make this boy invincible.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares, right? Comic book shit.
Yeah.
And when the X-Men, Jean Grey and the rest, Jean Grey in the astral plane anyway, but when the X-Men come in to come save the boy, Sinister's all like, yeah, no, you doomed him because he got that fuck shit in him. He gonna die anyway. Ha ha he, right? He dips. They bring the boy back, and they looking at him like, bro, this thing, or Beast looks at him like, yo, this shit is accelerating really fast. We gotta figure out how to fix him. He says, my tech is I ain't got it, right? We got pages and shit out here. We ain't ready for that, right? We ain't even got Nokia's yet, my nigga. What do we do, right? And they were like, well, you are working on that time band and fixing it for Bishop. Can't Bishop just go into the future and get the cure from my son, right? So, right, it makes sense, right?
Reasonable.
Like, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Because, Beast can do damn near everything, but he's also not necessarily a miracle worker. The guy got he got enough juice to just take Bishop and Nathan, and that's it. The family cannot go. So they over there, Madelyne and Summers, they got to make the decision like, bro, we got to let our newborn motherfucker, our newborn go. Like, we got to let him take him to the future and try to save his fucking life, right? So they having this discussion, and Scott going all in, them talking about he don't want to abandon his child. He don't want to send him off into the future. This, that, and the third. Then right before, like, it's like really time to say goodbye, this nigga abandons him. And he goes, I can't be a part of this, and walks away. Once again, sent me to fucking Mars. Because I'm like, This is the time to say goodbye to your child in case he don't come back. You see what Madelyne did. She sat there and did the beam to beam, the head to head, the mind meld with the baby to say, hey, I'll always be with you. I'm your mom's. We love you, because eventually one day that memory's going to unlock for the baby, whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
This nigga Scott says, I cannot be a part of this. In the same breath that he said, I can't abandon him. Is it Uchiwali or is it One Mike, Scott? Which one is it, my nigga?
I got nothing.
And this is why
I got nothing on that.
This is why I feel the way I feel about this guy. It doesn't make sense.
I got nothing.
This is your nigga. This is your friend.
No, he's still my dog. And, my man had a really tough choice. He was going through a lot.
Say goodbye.
I get it, but look, the nigga had a lot going on. Even right now, I'm sitting here like, wait a minute.
Madelyne has more going on. She found her own goddamn clone, or found out she is a clone.
No, but nigga, right now, I'm thinking about this because this is what I'm wondering. Okay, this is going to be for the rest of the season. Did he marry Madelyne or did he marry Jean?
Well, Madelyne dipped at the end.
No, but Jean and Scott's relationship are not going to be the same after this.
It's not, and you saw that foreshadowing because they was all quiet in the room, like, well, who the hell are you, nigga?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's really interesting that they're doing that, and that's wild because that really upends everything that we saw in the original series.
They in the fucked up room. The room's all turned over and flipped upside down, and in foreshadowing. Yep. And then also this also ends with. You talked a lot about Forge already, but this does end with Storm meeting Forge.
My dog.
Your dog.
One of the greatest.
Storm jumped on that good old Greyhound and went someplace.
And I loved how she instantly has the leather to go along with the mohawk now. She instantly adopts the whole look. And that was a whole storyline for her to get that look in the comics. And they're just like, nope.
It's just an outfit.
Throws on the leather immediately.
That's just her travel outfit when she's fast traveling on the Peter Pan.
Yeah,
that's what she wears.
Because that's what that's the mohawk look, and I love it. I love to see Forge. Also, we're gonna see Forge in the future, I think, because Bishop says he knows a man that can fix anything or can create anything, and that's pretty much Forge.
But wasn't that his? You said earlier that was his fault. That gun, right?
Yeah. So it's all gonna circle back around. I feel like he's going to have at least a hand in creating that technology in this storyline because they're doing the life-death storyline, like I said, and the life-death storyline is about Storm confronting Forge and then Storm confronting herself. So
it's like, nigga, you did this to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you mentioned life-death, there's because you said they did release all the episode names. It's the life-death part 1 and 2.
Yeah, because like I said, there's 2 parts to it in the comics.
Okay.
Some other little interesting. There are we've mentioned some of them throughout our reviews, but there are so many little Easter eggs being thrown in. And a lot of them have to do with all the characters that Morph transforms into. Because they're really quick and they're just so many different mutants and X-Men related characters. He turned into Archangel when the Blackbird exploded so he could save Wolverine.
That's the only one I knew.
Wow.
I was like, wow, these are other characters that Ben knows for sure.
I knew them. I mean, there pretty much hasn't been a character that showed up like Leech and Callisto showed up with the Friends of Humanity.
Leech. Yeah. I Leech.
Leech is my dog. Love Leech. He turned into Blob so he could bounce off him. He turns into a 6-armed woman named Spiral at one point. Spiral is related to that character Longshot that I was talking about during episode 2. She's also related to Mojo. She serves Mojo. So if you remember Mojo, the big fat dude with no spine.
No, I just remember the only big fat dude I knew with no spine. Well, he has a spine, Blob. But
yeah, no, Mojo is from another world. Mojo runs Mojo World, which is a world that's based all on entertainment. And Longshot's like his superstar. And Spiral is another person who serves him. And then they always kidnap the X-Men to serve in these television shows on his world. That happened like 3 times. They did like 3 Mojo World episodes in the original series.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so Spiral and Longshot.
With some blonde hair woman he turned into.
Okay, in the 3rd episode, when he's fighting the Goblin Queen, he turns into Ilyana Rasputin, who is Colossus's younger sister. And we see her with the Soul Sword, which is part of her. All right, once again, long story short. Goddamn, there is no way to tell the story short, but
you can't skip ahead.
Yeah, part of this episode was, like I said, it concerned the whole Inferno storyline, which was part of it was Goblin Queen making a deal with these demons who lived in this realm called Limbo. Now, Limbo has been a part of the X-Men for a long time because Ilyana, as a very young girl, was kidnapped and taken to Limbo
Limbo.
and raised there. So up until she was a teenager, she was raised in this demonic world. Eventually, she takes over the demonic world, takes control of it with this thing called the Soul Sword, and then comes back to Earth as a teenager and joins the New Mutants. But she's also this demon princess.
Right.
Yeah.
She fucked
So
up in the head.
pretty much one of my favorite characters. I love Ilyana, but she is a wild girl. So when we first see Morph turn into her, she's the normal New Mutant. She's wearing the black and yellow New Mutants costume, and she has the Soul Sword. Then the Goblin Queen takes control of her and brings out what is known as the Demon Child version of Ilyana, which was what Ilyana was always scared of turning into because she was afraid that her demon side would take over her. So that was just such a dope, really reference, because it's like she, as Morph does it, she's the regular Ilyana, and then when the Goblin Queen perverts her, puts the demon in her, she does the Demon Child or Morph to the Demon Child version. Yeah, put that demon in.
Oh my
Demon
god.
time, baby. Demon time. You know what it is.
Oh my god.
So straight up. So I love that was like an Easter egg in an Easter egg, and I really love that one.
Cool. There's some more Easter eggs. You had a couple, let's see, a few.
Well, just like some of the things that I really love was like Magneto's calling the Goblin Queen a brimstone clone. That's just,
Oh, his insults was on point. What did he say that I was like, that shit went hard?
But then she came back with the magnetism is nice, but my charm extends beyond mere metal. Like that was a bar because it's like the magnetism, but my charm.
I get it.
And then she said I should just use you as a toy, and then stripped him damn near naked. I love it, Like I say, Goblin Queen, torture me anytime, baby. When they go into the memories, when Jean and Madelyne are comparing memories and meeting Professor X for the first time, Professor X walks through the door. Jean opens it as a little girl, and she's holding a Cyclops doll, like an actual.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till the second time I watched it.
Like an actual, like
the giant Cyclops with one eye. Yeah, the mythical Cyclops.
Mythical, rather, Cyclops. Yeah.
When Madelyne confronts Jean, like talking about whose memories are this is during her battle, she confronts her with a bunch of images. All those images are classic X-Men covers. Like there was one that was the classic X-Men 1 that was drawn by Art Adams, where all the different X-Men are standing around each other. It's a big white background, and Wolverine's in the front with his claws out. It's like a classic image. That's from classic X-Men number 1. I can't name the numbers of exact, all the other ones, but they were all classic X-Men covers, and I thought that was a really quick, dope Easter egg. One other little thing that we already talked about Sinister and Gambit in another episode, how their original plans were wildly different than what turned out for them. But something else that little difference between the comics and the show. This all once again happened in the comics. Nathan gets infected with the techno-organic virus by, I think, Apocalypse. Yeah, Apocalypse did it in the comics. And he gets sent to the future to be raised in the future. Eventually, Scott and Jean go to the future and spend time there raising him. But in the comics, the person who comes back to the past to grab him up, basically, is this woman who's part of the Ascani clan. And the Ascani clan are these people in the future who basically are trying to protect Cable from Apocalypse because they know what he will become, and they know that eventually he will defeat Apocalypse in the future. And the Ascani clan is founded by Rachel Summers, who is Scott and Jean's daughter from an alternate timeline.
Okay.
The X-Men's family, the Scott Summers family tree is so insanely ridiculous all in of itself. But yeah, so that's
he fucking clones, so he
doing what he had to do. Look, man, he was fucking clones. It gets all kind of twisted. But so the difference here in the comics versus the show is that Rachel Summers comes back to take him to the future, while here Bishop says he's taking him to the future. And I don't think they're gonna do much of that Ascani stuff because, well, they might have some of it, and I'm sure they'll have some references because, like Bishop said, he's going to the future to meet a man who can fix or create anything. And then at the end of this episode, we see Forge being introduced. So that just seems like easy foreshadowing that he's going to see Forge in the future as well.
You know, I was as you were talking, I was thinking something. You know who we not said one word about, and I find it hilarious because it
Wow.
reminds me of back in the day. Jubilee.
Damn.
Not one whisper about Jubilation Lee. And you still got nothing. They gave her more speaking lines. I think I've heard her speak more in 97, X-Men 97, and I remember hearing her
Oh, no,
speak.
she talked hella in the original. She talked a lot.
She talked a lot. Okay.
Because she was the Sunspot in the original. You know, she was the character.
Right. The one that they had to rescue out of the thing.
And who you saw through, you know, it was...
Well, she referenced it. She was just like, they came and rescued me from the trap or whatever. Yep.
And she was the point of reference, like, where we get introduced to all this weirdness through this person who's never seen it.
Right. Okay.
So she talked a lot in the original.
Okay.
So I think because
I blocked her out.
Yeah, I think because you don't need her as much. But I'm sure as it goes on.
You think they're gonna
No, honestly, because I mean it's not
the way you said no.
It's just
you don't think they're gonna like help that situation. They make her so useless.
I don't think there's many classic Jubilee stories. Well, they are one of the titles I think they reference was E for Extinction. And if they do that
they have Tolerance's Extinction Part 1, 2, and 3. Those are the last episode.
Yeah, well, it's referencing the E for Extinction storyline from the comics, which takes place in Genosha and stuff. So I'm not sure how they're gonna do it here, but she does play a bigger role. But her biggest stuff comes later, like when she becomes a vampire, when she has a child after that, which was like current times. That's when she has a little baby boy, I think. And so I think that's her biggest story. It's like, I don't really... When she first got introduced in the 90s, she was just like Wolverine's sidekick. And so she's around
following
him
behind
a lot.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah, but she didn't really have her own moments until I think way later.
Are we going to see? And that's my thing. It's just like, we didn't even think about her. Like, she going to have her own at all?
I don't know.
I'm checking for it, to be honest, but...
I think if the tolerance, if that goes that way, she'll have some moments in that.
Okay.
Because in that, like in the original, like Wolverine gets captured, a bunch of the X-Men get captured, and she has to free Wolverine, and he's really fucked up. He's lost his healing factor.
Yeah. I do remember.
She's like, she's really carrying it through that, and that was a really great moment for her.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it'll be nice.
Hopefully, yeah. Because I like Jubilee. Jubilation Lee is great to me. Like she's such it's such a ridiculous character. Like her name is Jubilation Lee.
She said, "My name is Jubilee, and I blow up stuff."
Yeah, classic.
Aww.
So classic. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for our review of episode 3 and of the X-Men. We will be back every week to talk about it as episode 4 drops next week, and we'll be right here.